Here we have two disciples being called, the story of this. Jesus had just been baptized in the River Jordan and had spent the 40 days in the wilderness there near the Dead Sea, as he was ready to make his way and fulfill his desire and his mission. And that is to bring salvation to the world and to share God's love with everyone he could come in contact with. And so he was making his way back to his homeland, to his area, the Galilean area. Now, this road that he would be following would follow directly from the Dead Sea to the Sea of Galilee, a straight river that runs through the middle of Israel. It is a river that has been a pathway and major route for centuries. Jesus probably had traveled this road many, many times on his way back and forth to Jerusalem to go and to worship with his folks at the festivals there at the temple. It was a road of major, and it is still today, a major road, as those of us who've been to the Holy Land have traveled that road, and you can see Jordan on one side that is mountainous, and then the foothills of Israel on the other side, as you see clearly that you are in a valley. The foothills lead up to Jerusalem and places like Bethlehem. There you are in this valley, which is considered the fruit basket of the Holy Land. As we travel by bus and look out the windows, we see rows and rows of date palms and fig palms, of orange groves and banana trees. There are vegetable gardens all over the place. This is the fruit basket and vegetable basket of the Holy Land. It is made rich because of the waters of the River Jordan. Jesus would have traveled this road on his way there to Galilee. First, inviting Peter and Andrew to come and to follow him. And then inviting Philip and Nathanael. As he approached Philip, he said, "Philip, follow me." Now, follow me seems to be an invitation. But really, if we think about it, it's more of a command. Follow me. It is more of a command. It's not, well, think about it for a few days and then I'll get back with you, or why don't you, if you want to talk about it seriously, you and I meet for coffee and we'll talk about it, and you can come and follow me. It was a command. But Philip accepted this command. It's a command that really instructs us to follow Jesus. It's a command, basically, that is an invitation to all of us to come and follow him. Later in John's Gospel, in the 14th chapter, Jesus says, "I am the truth and the way and the life. No one comes by me except through the Father." Oftentimes when people read this, they misunderstand what Jesus' intentions are. They are not intentions that Jesus, we picture it as if Jesus is like the gateway to God. But truly what Jesus is saying is, I'm the way, you follow me, and I will lead you to the roadway that leads to God and to discovering God's will for your life. But to follow me, follow in my footsteps. There are those who base their understanding of Christian truths basically on what they know about Jesus, rather than understanding that for us, the Christian faith is based on us following Jesus and understanding what he is about, and then being like Jesus, imitating him. Follow me. Now, when he approached Philip, there was something about Philip that struck Jesus as wanting to be one of his disciples. He said, "I want you to be part of my team." Last week, our son Tommy drove from Vermillion, South Dakota to Des Moines, Iowa to meet with his fantasy football league members, the people that are part of his fantasy. How many of you participate in that? I don't understand it, but good. You're probably not not a part, but maybe you'll try to figure this out. Anyway, earlier, before the season began, they got all kinds of scouting reports. They looked up on the internet. They used magazines in order to scout out the players that they wanted to draft in order to be on their fantasy football league. And so they would pick the players that would give them the most points. And so somehow there's some computer wizard who compiles all these points together so that at the end of the season, which is already now they're in the playoffs, they know who gained the most points. And so our son traveled all the way from South Dakota to Des Moines to meet with these people and have their celebration. And hopefully, maybe he won an award. I don't know if he won anything. But I know that his mother's disturbed because he didn't make his way through Cedar Falls on the way to Des Moines. That's not fine. You mean you're going to go see your friends in Des Moines? Well, so this fantasy league is got all these scouting reports, but when Jesus calls his disciples, you can see by just the look of them, that he wants them to be part of his team. There are no scouting reports on these guys. There's no any kind of characteristic understanding. There's no application for them to fill out for them. There's no oral interviews that happen. Jesus knows who he wants and invites them to come and follow me. That same invitation is for all of us to come and follow Jesus, to walk in his path, for that path leads to God. And as we follow that, we became living examples, imitations of Christ's love. Philip, in his own way, became one of the greatest evangelists of all time. Paul usually is listed as the evangelist. But Philip was the first to leave Jerusalem and to go out to the Gentiles to teach and to preach about Jesus, to once again use the words, "Come and see." Well, when he was invited, Philip went to his best friend Nathanael to invite him to come and see Jesus. He says to Nathanael, I found the one whom Moses has taught, who's written about, and the prophets have prophesied about, as the one who we've been waiting, the Messiah, is coming. His name is Jesus, son of Joseph, from Nazareth. And evidently, Nathanael's kind of a cynical kind of man, but he says, can anything good come out of Nazareth? And that is true. Nazareth had a bad reputation in the sense of it was a backwater town. What good could come from a backwater town? And yet, Philip seems to know Nathanael better than anyone else. Instead of getting into an argument with him or challenging him and saying, "Oh, come on," he says, "Come and see. Come and see." And so Nathanael gets up and goes to see Jesus. Come and see. This morning, you may think it's funny that we're taking selfies during church, something that we're told not to do, but we're told to do today. One of the best ways of inviting people to church is to invite them by saying, "Come and see. Come and see the good things that are happening. Come and see what you may see. Come and hear the bells." But come and see is a way that we can invite people. It is the only way we grow, is by invitation. By saying to your neighbors, your friends, your co-workers, "Come and see what's going on, what's happening, what God is doing in our church and in our lives." We're baptizing another baby this morning. We're seeing more children in our children's time. There are good things happening here. So come and see. And Nathanael went and he met Jesus, and he was surprised because Jesus knew him even though he had never met Jesus before. He was surprised that Jesus knew him. Well, we know now that Jesus knows us better than we know ourselves. And that Jesus knew Nathanael better than Nathanael knew himself. And Jesus saw in Nathanael something special, that he wanted him to be part of his team. Nathanael makes a declaration of faith. You truly are the Son of God, the Messiah. And chooses to follow Jesus. And Jesus says, hang out with me for a little while. And you think this is something. Wait till you see what is in store for you. But the Gospel of John goes and does some amazing and incredible things in telling us the stories of Jesus feeding the 5,000, of walking on water, of healing the sick, of dying and raising from the dead. Those are incredible and amazing things that Nathanael was able to see, and he himself too became an evangelist and going out and sharing the good news of Jesus Christ. Who knows, maybe he learned from Philip and began asking people to say, come and see these wonderful things that are before us. We have a guest in our home this weekend. She's the wife of probably my best friend, Tom Schinkel. Tom came to me as a high school student in my office, troubled. His dad was an alcoholic. His mom was struggling with it. He was basically raising himself. I had never met him before, but he came into my office seeking some help and some guidance. And as we began visiting and listening to his story, he needed just somebody who loved him and cared for him. And so I said, Tom, why don't you come to church Sunday? Why don't you join us for church on Sunday? I do that a lot, and not very many people show up, but Tom showed up that morning. And was I pleased that Tom came? Because he sat by the best people that he could have sat by in our church, Saul and Helen Longabaugh. Saul and Helen saw Tom and saw that he was alone, and we're not afraid. Saul and Helen were 80 years old by then, had been farming all of their lives. And Saul was one of those guys that could never get his fingernails clean. And Helen was just one of those great women. He said, Tom, why don't you come over and have dinner with us after church? And Tom did. He was hungry because he really didn't have much to go home to. Tom still tells me to this day that was the best fried chicken he'd ever had in his life. Well, Tom came and continued to come, and it was about a year later that he sat down in my office and he said, tell me about the ministry. I feel something in my heart. I feel something in my heart. This last week, he has been taking a spiritual renew because Tom is now the United Methodist pastor at Grandview United Methodist Church in Dubuque, Iowa. He's taking some time off. He's been to Nigeria here recently, and he decided he wanted to retrace his steps. So he's been posting it on Facebook. And one of the first posts was where he started, was in Corning, Iowa. And when I was on vacation, I invited him to preach at two little churches there, Carl and Mount Etna. Unfortunately, Mount Etna is closed now, but there's a brass plaque saying that it had been there for many years. But what a reward for me to know that there was somebody that I invited is now serving us as United Methodist pastor. Is there someone in your life right now that you need to say, come and see? Maybe somebody that's trying to put their life back together. It feels as though their life has fallen into a million pieces and they need the help, the support of a loving community to help get their life back together. Maybe it's somebody that has lost a loved one and it's been years of dealing with grief and needing just a word of hope, the surrounding of our grief support group, to love and to care through them, their sorrow. Maybe it's somebody searching for meaning for their lives. You know, I've been at the same job for 40 years, and I've begun to wonder if I'm making a difference in the world. Come and see. Come and see. That is the only way that we are going to grow, if you have the courage to invite someone to stay and say, come and see, and experience the good things that are happening here at First in Cedar Falls. Let us pray. Gracious and holy God, we thank you that There were people in our lives who extended the invitation, who encouraged us in faith, who helped us along the way, just like Philip. Let us be the Philips. May we be drafted to be part of your team, to invite people to come and see and discover the love that you have for each of us. Amen.